Greetings and welcome to In-Depth. I'm Dike Rostant. Some religious texts speak to there being a natural remedy for every ailment known to man. One is rosemary, said to be used to help bring calm and mental focus. An entire event has to be wrapped around another, namely Tulsi or holy basil. Caroline Ravello, founder of Create Better Minds, joins us now in this event that is so much more than one event. Greetings, Caroline. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, even before we start on to speak about the event itself, give us an overview of Create Better Minds. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me on, DK. So, Create Better Minds, we formed a group in 2017, and we really wanted to do mental health advocacy at a different level in Trinidad and Tobago. So, we registered as a nonprofit organization and we began work in 2018. We began doing training with prison service nurses, doctors here and in Guyana. And then in 2019, we did workplace well-being interventions. And in 2020, as we were getting ready to do our green tea initiative, we met COVID-19, or COVID-19 met us. So for those years of COVID-19, we've really just done online work with women globally, just really trying to get people to understand themselves and their mental health issues during the pandemic. So this is Create Better Minds renewing its focus in 2023.
And even before we get to that renewal of focus, the what kind of gaps were experienced to make you say that Create Better Minds can be an answer? What was the question? What was the thing that was saying that, okay, something can be done a little differently?
I think one of the concerns I had was the fact that while we have many voices speaking about mental health and speaking to mental illnesses and interventions, we have not seen that coalescing as yet around the issue. Many other issues have loud voices, lots of advocacy, corporate sponsorship, but still, even though mental health is something everyone has, and many of us experience mental illnesses, somehow this issue remain without the community that I envision an issue like this should have in Trinidad and Tobago. So that was it for me. And then, of course, being a client of the mental health system, having had mental illnesses for over 4 decades in my life, living with depression and things we did not even know about, in the 1970s when I first became ill. For me, I have just a personal investiture in seeing more done and in having a louder voice or hearing a louder sound on behalf of mental health and mental illnesses in Trinidad and Tobago and in the region.
And in terms of increasing that volume for the sound of advocacy for mental health in Trinidad and Tobago and the region, what was that response like? Or if you can take me through it in terms of the workplace well-being interventions, because I think there's so many times where we may say that something is the issue with someone, but it is not necessarily. And the way that you can see a physical ailment as opposed to something that is more related to mental health. What was that like trying to actually get an intervention like that off of the ground?
Yes. So it was interestingly, if you find an organization with someone who's already tuned into the issue, it's not very difficult to find your way into the organization. So that's always easy. What's difficult is if you should approach maybe an HR manager who does not really have the kind of focus or does not have the understanding or who may still be in that space of stigma and discrimination, then you won't get a response, you won't get an open door. So a few things happened when we started this work, Create Better Minds. My partner, who is in the United Kingdom, Dr. Yancy Rostant, together with her partners in the UK, created for Create Better Minds, a training program. So we have our own mental health training program. And this is culturally sensitive. It was really done based on Caribbean culture. In 2018, we brought that to Trinidad. We offered it first to the health sector because we thought that was one of the best places to get people invested. So the first set of training, it wasn't very difficult to encourage mental health nurses, physicians, and allied health workers to come to the training and to participate. We also looked at first responders, and we were fortunate enough that the British High Commission invested money to have us train the prisons officers in Trinidad and Tobago and the prisons officers and the police officers in Guyana. So, again, if you are speaking with someone who understands the issues, it's not very difficult to get them to say, this is something we can do. With the Workplace Wellbeing Program, we ran one for a year, and in the first 6 months, we did quite a lot with this organization. And we had resistance even within the organization. But I remembered something that I will carry with me for the rest of my life. Almost a year after the organization, the former CEO called me. She said to me, I had I think it was either a stroke or a major health incident. And she said to me, you know what? I regret not having made the time to participate in the intervention that you brought to my employees. And that stood out to me. To me, there was a big lesson taught there. And I think it's a lesson I will always carry for other organizations. So we were fortunate to do the work, and we were fortunate to have a lot of the lower level staff participate. I think that the work going forward has to be top down and not so bottom up as we've been able to successfully do.
And involving that C-suite, that group of managers and stuff, sometimes I think people think that seeking mental health is an admission of weakness, where I think the opposite is true in terms of owning and being able to be vulnerable is something that is very empowering if you avail yourself of the opportunity. But looking at the qualifier of that Caribbean market, that Caribbean cohort, it was built for persons in the Caribbean. How much of a difference does that make? Because I know many times we're used to getting raw materials out of the ground or out of whatever, however, and sending it out for someone to put the bells and whistles on. What is the difference you find when it is created in the Caribbean or within the Caribbean for people within the space?
In our brief experience, and brief, of course, because we had COVID-19 as that intervening period, we found that we were able to reach people just by the methods we use in really maybe just exposing prejudice. So we would do games that were really more sensitive to Caribbean issues and Caribbean culture. In Trinidad and Tobago, mental health awareness is not the same as in the United Kingdom or in the USA or in New Zealand or Australia. And therefore, when we teach, we have to start with that in mind. We have to start kind of behind the zero. We have to start by defining it. We have to start by helping people with myths, the one you spoke about, that if you talk about your mental health and if you're in distress, if you should go for intervention, that somehow that makes you weak. We have to teach that. So we really take care to help people go beyond all of the misinformation. So for us, we're starting with misinformation, we're starting with stigma, we're starting with prejudices, we're starting with religious stigma, a big one, because in the Caribbean, we are very religious peoples. And so we start with that as a way to access people's mind and people's hearts and people's commitment to the issue. And that's a major change from, like you say, getting material and then going out and trying to make it work for our community.
Definitely. And the fact that we are not homogenous, even within the Caribbean. Sometimes I remember having a conversation with someone And I was saying, well, they never heard of the practice of putting like a blue bottle on the plant that you're dealing with in terms of formaldehyde or whatever. And then they let me know that where we use blue, they would use red. And this is also in the Caribbean. So even looking at things like that and forging greater understanding from which we can communicate with each other, I think is very important. But we take a short break here, and we come back actually speaking to the event, what it is designed to do, what you hope to get out of it. We are speaking to the founder of Create Better Minds, Carolyn Ravello, about the event coming up that is called Tulsi. Stay with us. Welcome back. We are speaking mental health, mental advocacy, doing so with the founder of Create Better Minds, Carolyn Ravello, looking at the fact that Tulsi is a renewal of the focus. So this is Tulsi, the event. And one of the things that I appreciate in this conversation, Ms. Ravello, is the fact that we've been kind of dealing with nuances. So this little tweak makes a more of a difference. Now, I want to ask about the significance of having an event like this, and we'll get to the event, but what is the significance of having an event like this specifically for women?
So historically, in my growing up and in my community, women were the healers. You know, I will call the name, I will invoke the name of a woman from my community whose name was Theresa Braveboy, and she delivered me. My mother was Theresa Ravello. They were best friends, and she delivered me. And throughout my life, growing up in my community, every ailment, every malaise, we called on Miss Theresa, and she knew the name of every bush, every herb, every plant, anything, and she knew which remedy for which pain. And so it's that kind of inspiration that Tulsi comes from. As someone involved in horticulture, I learned a lot about Tulsi as not just a sacred aspect, because there's a very sacred aspect to it, but the healing aspect and the fact that it's been used for over 4,000 years in traditional knowledge and culture. And so I'm always very excited about Tulsi among all of the other healing herbs that we have. And I'm using it here as a metaphor. I'm using Tulsi as the thing that is both sacred and that can cure or can heal or can help with about any ailment you can think about. And I'm combining that with the fact that women were the ones who would walk along the road and find the St. John's wort and bring the vervine and bring all of the other things and say, this is what you need for what you are experiencing right now.
And as a young fellow, well, youngish, who has a granny from Maruga, and you see that enamel basin, when I could have still fitted it. Plenty bush bat pass. But the event itself, when is it? Where is it? What do you hope to get out of it?
Sure. So we're looking Tuesday, the 10th is World Mental Health Day. So what we were hoping to do is really use the moment of World Mental Health Day to start the healing conversations among women. So let me just interject and say, people are like, well, what about the men and the children? This is the inaugural green tea, and we thought that we would start in the tradition of women being the healers, women bringing the healing, women as nurturers. So the event is on Saturday, October 14th, and it is at the Dolphins Vacation Resort in Otaheite. So it's on the ocean front. And we are going to gather for what we call green tea, using green, which is the global advocacy color for mental health, and combining it with TEA, which is talk, explore, action. And together we're going to try to start a conversation and see if we can come up, we can explore it and come up with action points that we each can take back to our community, whether that's the family, the church, whether it is your village, whether it is your workplace. So that's what we're hoping to accomplish this week. And we thought that aligning it with World Mental Health Day was just a natural thing.
And I really like that explanation. I appreciate it because many times you find, I think many times the persons who complain the most doing the least. And in the same way, you gave the example of women walking along the roadside and collecting and picking up these things and bringing them back. Not quite the little brown hen, but in terms of like the persons doing the work, I think should benefit from it as well. And in the same way, when sometimes you're in a plane and they're giving you the rundown of what should happen in case cabin pressure falls or whatever, and you need to put the mask on yourself to be able to help others. But sometimes the cup, you pour from it, you pour from it, you pour from it, and when you're looking for some for yourself, it's like Mother Hubbard cupboard. So I really appreciate the fact that, okay, well, in this first one, going to the healers, the nurturers, honoring the divine feminine, and saying, okay, well, this is something that we want to take forward. But in terms of like the entire day getting together, what is the thing, or what are the things that will make you smile and say, yeah, it was worth it?
I think I would like to hear the stories. We have a segment in the program where women are going to tell their bush and their bush medicine healing stories. I look forward to that because I think that's the thing that can take us back to the root and really touch what is innate in us to want to help society as we sit and see it fall apart, as we sit and see the crime, as we sit and see the discord, that we don't just sit on the sideline and say, we have crime, we have discord, we're not voting, all the things that we say, and all of the other platitudes about what's happening and mental health, but that we actually can commit to doing something. I think that would be it for me, because the action in TEA is, what are you going to do when we're finished eating and we have food, when we finish having all kinds of teas, and we have teas from twigs, we have our own handmade Tulsi and our own handmade vervine made by Caroline Ravello from Moruga Dike. So yes, we have handmade teas and we're encouraging people to try some of those. But when you leave, after all the fun and after all of that, women getting together and so feeling like we're supported and supporting each other, when we go back to our individual spaces, that action point, if we will take that and we would really act in it, I think that would be the success of Tulsi and all the other festivals to come in the years to come. We're promising now.
I like that, and we're going to follow up on that commitment from time to time. But how do people get into contact? We still have a few days when people are seeing this, to be part of the event, to be part of the experience, to be part of this healing event.
Certainly. So let me say that the response has really been very exciting and overwhelming. We have very few seats available. So we're encouraging people. We've had the information out, but now we're encouraging people to call 377-3757 and inquire whether or not we have seats and whether we can accommodate you on Saturday. 377-3757. Call us and we tell you. The women who've already committed, they are all abuzz and excited, and thankfully they did better than most of Trinis who like to pay the day before. I don't think we'd have a day before payment plan for this one. I think seats are going to close very quickly.
I like the fact that it isn't all encompassing as well, because sometimes you need to be able to have that kind of circle, that safe space. But we want to thank you very much for the work that you're doing and continue to do and commit to doing more, Caroline Ravello. And on behalf of the entire TTT News team, this has been In Depth with me, Dike Rostant. Thank you so much for joining us.